why they must embrace this initiative. Don't forget that just about a couple of days ago, the Deputy Governor of Ogun State, Engineer Naimota Lakoyedele, was decorated as the net ambassador in Ogun State. And she has been in the vanguard advocating for elimination of malaria, that people should embrace this initiative, and together we can completely wipe out malaria from Ogun State, and Nigeria can also be certified free like Egypt, that is free of malaria. Welcome to Democratic Part this afternoon on your darling station Ogtv. My name is Tunde Shodeke. So our focus is health related as we take a look at the 3.1 million ITN, that is insecticide treated net, being distributed in Ogun State to residents in order to, as I said, eliminate malaria completely. But to give us up to speed information as to what has been transpiring on the field, how far they've been able to cover the 20 local government areas, I have in the studio live with me Mr. John Ocholi, who is the Program Director, Society for Family Health. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, viewer. It's a pleasure to be here again, and also to tell you about what is happening in the state so far. We're making progress, and we're happy to say that the progress is one of the things that we've always looked up to see how we can reduce the burden of malaria in the state and across the country.
Okay, that's a cheering news that you are making progress, because I would like you to further give our viewers there the up-to-speed information as to what has been your coverage area. 20 local governments, I know the distribution network is not the same.
Yes.
Some areas are densely populated, some are scarcely populated. So how far now?
Yeah, so when we came to Ogun State to support the state government, first, it's always good to make it clear that it's the initiative of the state, working with the Federal Ministry of Health. It's part of what is being done to see how we can tackle and reduce the burden and the incidence of malaria across the country, and Ogun State also being one of the major places of focus. When we talk about malaria control earlier, we had said that you can look at malaria control from different approaches or different strategies that come into one, which is at the end of the day we reduce the mortality and morbidity that is associated with malaria. We talked about environmental management, where you want to clean your environment, make sure you don't have stagnant water and all that. You also want to reduce the breeding spaces of the vector, which is the mosquito, in the community. You want to do that as much as possible. Then we now say the other part is also for us to do prevention, to see how we can reduce the bite of the mosquito, so that the mosquito will not bite people, especially when they are inactive, when people sleep at night. And that is the aspect where we are now, where the government has provided this net to be distributed to people free of charge. Before now, you can get nets in a pharmacy or in the PPMV, or where you can get them and then you can use them. But at a point in time, the government will always do what we call scale up for impact. You bring a number of nets and make sure you target every household that is eligible to give everybody. So for Ogun State, for this distribution, the government had looked at it and we had done a micro planning. And in that micro planning, 3.1 million nets have been brought into the state to be distributed. Now they'll be distributed through two major channels. One is the campaign where we are doing, and we plan to distribute about 2.9 million. The remaining 200-something thousand will go through what we call the routine channel, where pregnant women, when they go for antenatal, will get the net, or children when they go for their welfare clinic for immunization and all that will also get the net. Again, just to say that as of today is our day 3 of the distribution. We started 2 days back, or 3 days back after the deputy governor flagged up the activity. As at yesterday evening, because we're using technology, whatever is being distributed at any part of the state, Ipokia, Waterside, or wherever, we can see it on our dashboard to say X number of nets have gone out to people. Okay. People are going to where we call distribution points. We have about 1,432 distribution points across the state. So people go there to pick up this net. And so far as at yesterday evening, we had done about 50% of people picking up those nets.
Of the 3.1 million?
Of the 2.9 million.
Sorry.
Yes, 2.9 million. So somewhere around 1.4 million nets already had gone to people as at yesterday. And today I'm just coming from Remo local government now, and I want to see how people are still there picking up the net and all that. So far, I think the progress is great, and we're hoping that even as we progress from here to 23rd, we can do more.
Okay, one striking issue or salient point from your opening remarks is the fact that environmental issue, that is from two angles, the environmental one, that is exactly what I wanted to address now. Are you convinced with the kind of environment that people are living in? Because it is not enough to just have the net, whereas mosquitoes are still being breathed within the environment, and so definitely people will still contact malaria through that. So will you say enough is being done in that area to completely eliminate that aspect of it?
Yeah, so thank you for that. The Minister for Health, the Coordinating Minister for Health, in recent time has talked so strongly about what he calls a sector-wide approach. Sector-wide approach is looking at it that you don't have to say health is strictly for the Ministry of Health, but rather health expands beyond the Ministry of Health. It brings in the Ministry of Environment, it brings in the Ministry of Education, it brings in the Ministry of Women Affairs, Ministry of Information. Everybody has to play a part. So again, when you begin to look at community, you can define community in different aspects. Community could be a group of people who live together, share a common character, behavior, culture, a community. You can also come and say community could also be agencies of government that also have a particular agenda of saying they are supposed to work for the people, do A, B, C, D for the people. So if you look at that also, you can now have a meeting and say, let's call in the community of the ministries and development, what they call parastatals, and say, let's sit down and work together. So yes, the environment is very key, and that is why in the approach now, we're looking at what do we do with the environment. In the distribution of net in Ogun State right now, we have some places where we are saying that we are doing targeted distribution. There are places where we're not giving them net because we feel that what they really need in those places might not be net. It might even be to manage the environment. If you have a place where the drainages already are very good, the waters can flow. If the gutters are clean, what you need is not net but to clean the gutters so that the mosquitoes will not breed, right? If there are some other places that you need to pull one thing or another thing together, so the environment is very important. And I must say that in our country right now, a lot needs to be done by individual, first of all. You know, sometimes they say sanitation day. When you go to people's houses, they are sleeping. They don't do anything. You see around the place is dirty. But people need to, first of all, begin to build that culture to say, in my place, I can clean my environment. Not just the environment gutter around. If you have water sitting in your house for a long time, 4 or 5 days, sometimes you see it breeds mosquitoes. And you're breeding the vector that will generate or transmit the malaria parasite. So environmental management is very key at the community level, at the household level, even at the state. And so we're also calling on community leaders to also help us propagate, talk about the need for us to have clean environment and reduce breeding spaces for the mosquitoes.
So is it possible for Ogun State and by extension Nigeria to be certified malaria-free, like we had in the case of polio? Nigeria is free of polio now. Is it possible to also have to reach that peak?
It's possible, and like we keep saying that the recent pronouncement of Egypt as being malaria-free or certified malaria-free, it's a progress that all of us are happy about, and to say that we're also getting there. Egypt becomes the third country in Africa. Like we talk about Algeria, it's one. If we know what we can do, and if we have the statistics and data to show us that we are making progress, it might not come immediately, but to know that you're moving, just like you're moving from here to Lagos, at every point the kilometers keep reducing, you begin to feel the fresh air or the busyness of Lagos, you're getting to Lagos, it gives you hope to keep going. In Nigeria, at some point when we started checking data on what is happening, we're like 45% to say 45% incidence or prevalence of malaria, which means that, like I say, from 10 people counted, 5 of them will have the parasite in them. Gradually we moved to a point where it was like 27%, which means from 10 is 3. But now we are somewhere around 22, moving to 21, which means from 10 people you're counting, you're looking at 2. But this is the national average. By the time you go to different states, it's going down. Some places it's going up because we're not doing what we're supposed to do. So the last time we checked Ogun State, it was not really going down as it's supposed to. Rather, it was stagnating and almost trying to go up. Because again, if you check one of the things that they do, or one of the things we need to do, first, let us treat malaria fever with malaria medicines. Why am I saying that? When people are sick or people feel sick, I have a fever, there's a tendency to just go and say, I want to buy malaria medicine. That fever might just not be malaria. Fever can be anything. Fever is your body temperature changing, and headache can come from many other things that can happen to you. So if you now begin to feel funny or feel unwell and you go and buy the malaria medicine, you might just be treating something else that is not there, or not treat the correct medicine. So the first thing for us to get malaria certified free is to ensure that when you feel you have fever, go and check that it is fever, so that we don't begin to take the medicines unnecessarily and will make it resistant. If you're not having malaria, you keep taking malaria, your body becomes, it looks at you like you're just eating food. At the point it might not be working for you, you begin to have resistance. So first and foremost, anybody feeling sick, try to get to a hospital or a lab where they can test you for malaria parasite. If it is negative, please don't take malaria medicine. Go for further investigation. Something else is wrong with you. If it is positive, then the doctor will tell you to take the malaria parasite. The malaria medicine, sorry, ACT, which is certified malaria medicine. And again, we are saying that even when people sleep, they should sleep inside the net. Reduce the bite of the mosquito that causes that. When you are outside, wear long clothing in the night, also to reduce the places where mosquitoes can bite you. For pregnant women, we say when they are pregnant, they should go for ANC, antenatal, so that they can register them. And then at some particular point during the pregnancy, they give them the medicines that they also need to boost the child's health and the mother's health, so that the malaria will not disturb them. And if we keep doing all these things together, Nigeria one day can get to a place where we say we are certified malaria free. We are hopeful because the result is showing.
All right, so let's begin to break it down now. Let's look at the net itself, how useful it is, how can people put it to use, because I've had calls to see almost close to that. I'm not too sure if it is that net that farmers are using it to even prevent their crops from being attacked by insects and what have you. So let's break that. So let us, what is the process of deploying this nets for people's purpose, for people's use?
So that's where we talk about ignorance and we talk about the need for information. They say education is power. Information is strength, it's power. It can do a lot of things for people. So one of the things we have noticed is that sometimes for some reason when people get this net, they put them into other use that is not meant to be. If you have a new net that's supposed to last for 3 to 4 years, what we advise and educate people is that they should spray that net, first of all, air it under a shade for 24 hours. When you air it under a shade for 24 hours, then you can hang it over your sleeping space and sleep inside it every night. Some people will tell you that the net, if I sleep inside, I sweat or the net might be hot. We said, yes, it's possible, but what we advise is, why don't you sleep light when you are inside the net? If you don't sleep in the net, you also use body cover, blanket to cover yourself, because you don't want mosquitoes to bite you. But if you're inside the net already serves as a cover for you, so you can actually sleep light and sleep peacefully. Most times people sleep between morning and night, between night and morning, they would have woken up like 3-4 times. Sometimes you don't know it's mosquito that is waking you or something else. But probably if you sleep in the net, you might have a peaceful rest. Some rest could be like 4-3 hours, but they'll be very, very peaceful. You could last for a long time, then you're not sleeping all through the night. So use the net, have a peaceful rest, and wake up very strong in the morning. Yeah. And then when people begin to misuse the net, that is where the community comes in. First, we educate them, but we want the leaders and the opinion leaders, community leaders, and the stakeholders to discourage the use of net for other things. When nets are old, it's a different thing. Sometimes people repurpose them. If the net is old and you can't sleep, it's not, maybe you got another one to use, or that one is not, it stayed there for too long. We see people repurposing them and all that. Sometimes, yes, they can repurpose, but the first thing is, even if your net is more than 3 or 4 years, you can still sleep inside it to protect you against mosquito bite.
Okay, so what's your projection for Ogun State with this, I would say, second phase? Now, you were here in 2021, you are back in 2024, 3 years interval. So what is the projection? What are you trying to target in the next 2-3 years again? Is it that malaria will have been completely eliminated from Ogun State? You might not need to come back here, or you still need to do a mop-up maybe in another 3 years?
So I think we're making progress, which is like the positive part of it and all. Projecting if malaria will be eliminated in the next 3-4 years is something that we hope can happen, but something that we don't know if it will happen yet. but we keep pushing for it. Now, sometimes when you bring it down, it comes down very fast. You get to a point that it begins to stagnate or become very difficult to reduce the number, and that can be one of the places where we are. However, if we all have a collective approach and collective investment in time, in energy, in mobilization, in social support, telling people where we have we call lead mothers, or we have influencers, where we have people who stand up and say, I am for zero malaria. For example, I can tell people, and I always tell people, I say, my children sleep inside the net every night. And if I can ask and tell you that, why don't you make your children sleep inside the net every night? And every household in Ogun, or parents begin to say, make your children sleep inside the net every night. Eventually, we begin to create that net culture for children to sleep inside net. Children that are in boarding schools, how do you get them to sleep inside net? Because the parasite is going to be picked by the mosquito around and all that. If we begin to protect people that mosquitoes don't bite them, that is one of the ways to reduce that. So by the time we're coming next time, and maybe we have data, we can have different data we can share to say that we're making progress as much as possible. But I think moving towards elimination in Ogun State and in this country is a progress that we are gradually getting there. We are hoping that we'll get there very soon.
All right. Okay. So what has been people's reaction to this ongoing campaign as to coming out to be part of it and get the net actually? So what has been their reaction to it? Is it encouraging enough that possibly that will not give you a kind of a protection that Ogun State might likely get to zero level of malaria?
Yeah, like I say, we have 5 days of distribution. In the first 2 days, we have done 50% of what we ask people to come and collect. We are hoping that we can get to 99% or maybe 100 if possible. But I think the feedback so far is that we're doing well. People are accepting, people are coming out to collect the net. The next level is to pray that people use the net, which is your duty as the media, the duty of the committee leaders, the religious leaders, and everybody, so that people get the net and use the net every night.
Okay, so if peradventure, after getting this net,
yes, excuse me.
All right, if peradventure after getting this net, what is the lifespan of this net? For how long can it be deployed for the purpose it's intended for? And what else can they do to also preserve the net?
The net.
Okay, sorry. Okay, let's go on this break. We're back after this short break. The program is still Democratic Power. We are taking a look at the distribution of insecticide-treated nets in Ogun State. 3.1 brought to Ogun State, but 2.9 will be distributed, and according to my guests, they've covered 50% of that 2.9, which is encouraging enough. So we'll be right back after this break. Join us again.
Malaria Ambassador for Ogun State, I extend my gratitude to the Federal Ministry of Health, the National Malaria Elimination Program, the Ogun State Ministry of Health, and the Rollback Malaria Partners for entrusting me with this responsibility for the second time. I also want to thank the federal government and our partners for their generous efforts in providing free insecticide-treated nets to households across Ogun State. These nets are crucial in protecting families from mosquito bites and reducing malaria, one of Nigeria's most significant public health challenges, which disproportionately affects children under 5 and pregnant women. In my role as Malaria Ambassador, I'm committed to using every available channel to spread the word on life-saving benefits of insecticide-treated nets. Together, we will raise awareness and ensure that families across Ogun State use these nets consistently to protect themselves from malaria. To increase the reach and impact of our efforts, I work closely with malaria advocates from each local government area. Their role will be to mobilize grassroots communities, aiming to make Ogun State the leader in net utilization across Nigeria. With the support of our stakeholders, I pledge to work tirelessly towards a future where no child dies from malaria, where no pregnant woman suffers a miscarriage or has a low birth weight child due to malaria. Together, we can significantly reduce the burden of malaria in Ogun State. Beneficiaries are to pick up their nets from the designated distribution points between Tuesday, November 19th and Saturday, November 23rd, 2024. To reduce the impact of end-of-life nets on the environment, we encourage our residents who have old and damaged nets to bring them along to the distribution points for safe disposal and recycling. After receiving your nets, be sure to air them under shade for 24 hours before hanging them up for use. Crucially, you and your children must sleep under these nets each night for protection against malaria-carrying mosquitoes. Let's also encourage our friends and neighbors to do the same. The government and our partners have done their part by providing these nets free of charge. Let's not sell them or leave them unused. Hang them and use them. Let's play our part to make Ogun State malaria-free by using the nets nightly. Thank you, and together, let's build a healthier, malaria-free Ogun State. Ìgbéga ìpínlẹ̀ Ògùn, àjọṣe wa ni.
That was the net ambassador for Ogun State there, the State Deputy Governor, Engineer Naimot Salako Oyedele, in the forefront telling us that we should come out and get this net, and after collecting it, we should put it to use in order to bring malaria prevalence in Ogun State to ground zero. And I want to believe that all of us will heed our call, will hear this advice and make sure that this is done and it is done in the right way, because the health of everybody is paramount and is key to the government of the day in Ogun State. Don't forget again that if you avoid this malaria, do you know how much you'll be saving or how much you'll have expended in getting to the hospitals, being diagnosed or whatever, having to buy drugs and the likes of that. So it's better to get this net, and it is free. Get it and put it to use. My guest is still in the house, Mr. John Ocholi, who is the Program Director, Society for Family Health. So, Mr. Ocholi, now, there was something that struck me there in the message by the Deputy Governor, end-of-life nets.
Yes.
Can you explain this phrase so that people out there can also get to know what actually was he talking about or what that phrase meant?
Okay, so I was actually waiting for that part of the discussion.
Okay.
So far in the country, we have distributed a lot of nets. Plenty of nets have been distributed. The first campaign we had in Ogun State was in 2009, and then we had the next one for 2014, then there was the 2018, 2021, and then we are doing this. And all the time we bring this net, we say the net will last between 3 and 4 years. But there's not been any deliberate effort to say, where are those nets we have given you? What are you doing with them? Can we get them back? Can we clean up the environment instead of allowing them to litter around? Okay. So at this point where we are coming now, we're also looking at what we are calling the end of life of the ITN. That's what we're saying. So an ITN is supposed to say 3 to 4 years, and it stays, even sometimes it might stay beyond that, because even though the treatment might not be there, but you can still protect. But you get to a point that you don't want to use them again. They are old, you don't want to use them. So instead of hanging them, putting them around, as we're coming for this campaign, we're saying people who are coming to redeem their nets, to get a new net, bring that old net so that we can help to pack them together and clean up the state. So the end of life of the net activity, we're actually targeting some local government to say we want to deliberately see what happens here. But in other local government also, we're also encouraging people to say that if you have those old nets that are there and you're not using them and they're hanging around, please take them to the distribution point. We have told the people that when you bring it there, they'll collect them, and then later we'll pull all of them and try to see how we can clean up those nets from the environment.
Oh, okay. All right. So is there any particular local government, or let me say local government, let's look at the location. It could be a town, it could be a village or wherever you, that has this highest prevalence of malaria in Ogun State?
So if you look at the prevalence or the incidence of malaria in Ogun State, yes, it varies from place to place. And those data, currently I don't have it, so I don't want to call a local government and not, but yes, based on the test positivity rate. So test positivity rate, when people go to the hospitals and clinic and they test you for malaria parasite, like I say, sometimes it comes out positive, which you have. So if 10 people or 100 people from Remo or 100 people from Abeokuta South go to the clinic, and then we do a malaria parasite test for them, when the result comes out, you begin to see where there's more of the test coming up positive. So you now say, okay, here we have more malaria case, we need to work. But if it's about where there's malaria or mosquitosis all over the state, and everybody's at risk. But based on what I say about targeted distribution, there are some places that we look at them and say that maybe these people don't need net as the major thing, but they might need net. Pregnant women and children under 5 who live in those communities can go to the health facilities and get the net for free. All right, but then for the household, like we're distributing free, we didn't do that in everywhere, especially in Abeokuta South, where from the 15 wards, we only are giving net in 1 ward. In Abeokuta North, from the Abeokuta South is one with 16 or 15.
Yeah, I'm not too sure.
Okay, so I think Abeokuta South is the one that has 15 and we're giving in 1. Abeokuta North has 16 ward and we're giving in only 6, so 10 we are not given.
Right.
So those kind of things, and the data is coming from this, like you're saying, looking at the test positivity rate after malaria indices and data that is helping us take the decision.
Now, Abeokuta North has that figure possibly because it has more rural areas and areas that are still not environmental friendly yet, so as to eliminate incidents of malaria and what have you. Now, you said this distribution, and according to the message by the Deputy Governor, will end on Saturday 23rd of this month.
Yes.
What happens thereafter? Is that we just, because eventually if you don't hit your target by that date, what is the next line of action?
Yeah, so like I said, we have put out desire to distribute 2.9 million nets in the state, and these are given as net cards to households. We have reached out to about 1,093,000 households in Ogun State, and that is where the numbers are coming from. Because some households you go, they might be entitled to 1 net, some households might be entitled to 2 nets or 3 nets or 4 nets. That's what accumulates to that 2.9. So we've given the period from 19th of the month to 23rd, that's 5-day period, for people to go on a daily basis, present their net card or net token, and then get the net. However, if we end by 23rd, and we see that there's a need to still open the distribution points for people who are not opportune to go within that 5 days or not chance to go, then we can do what we call a mop-up day. We can do a mop-up day for either on the Sunday or Sunday and Monday, depending on how it goes. But our desire is to ensure that as many as possible people get the nets in Ogun State so that we can improve and increase the cover to reduce the bite of malaria.
Why has your strategies not include places like church, mosque, marketplace, and the likes of that? So
they do.
For distribution.
Well, for distribution, because it's households that we are targeting, and we'll go to houses. If we decide to go to churches, go to mosques, go to offices and all that, we might be giving one person twice. But everybody has only one sleeping space, only one house, and that's why we decide to go to the house. Imagine if a team is distributing, they go to a house, they give somebody, they go to your office or go to the market, they see the person, they give the person. That means you're meeting the person twice. But when we do it at household, everybody has a home. And then we go around the houses and give people the net card and say, take the net card. And that was done earlier, between 31st and 8th of the month, 31st of October to 8th of the month. And then now we're now doing the second level where people need to bring those net cards to designated distribution point for them to get the nets.
Okay, so where come about this net? Where are we getting it from? Because it's been distributed free to people so as to reduce the incidence of malaria. So where is it coming from? How did you generate this net?
Yes, so like I said before, I said it's the government of the state and the federal government with support from partners around the world. So malaria is a disease that the government of the country, in partnership with WHO and everybody, is worried about. Nigeria contributes a huge number or a huge percentage when we're talking about malaria burden around the world. So because the world is also thinking that just like we're eliminating polio, we eliminated smallpox, chickenpox, and others, one country cannot do it alone. So you need the whole country, because people from other countries come to Nigeria. So if there's malaria here and you don't support Nigeria to remove the malaria, they'll come and take the parasite and take to their country. Egyptians coming to Nigeria now will be careful and say, let me not go and carry malaria in Nigeria, right? So it's a whole lot of effort from WHO, UNICEF, everybody coming together, the Global Fund, and trying to see how do we help Nigeria. Nigerian government also contributes her quota to some of the supports that happen or some of the contributions that happen around the world. So even when the nets are coming, the effort of the federal government of Nigeria, the effort of the state government is also there. There's something that is called the counterpart funding. So even the operational cost for movement and making this net be available, the cost of the media where you have to engage and try to sensitize people, the cost of warehousing the net and logistics to move the net is something that every part of the government, of the states, the federal and the partners are pulling together to ensure that households at the end of the day receive the net for free.
The coverage area extends to, there are some remotest part of Ogun State. For instance, there's an island called Tongiji. Tongiji is in Ipokia local government.
So before you call the Ipokia, I call the Ipokia for you. To tell you that even as of this afternoon, we spoke about those people. So every part of Ogun State, especially the rural areas, the most difficult places have all been reached. They've been given net card. Okay. Now we are waiting for them to come back and to redeem the net. And one of the things we have also done is, in addition to say we have what is called distribution point, we are also going to have what we call a satellite distribution point, satellite GP. So from today is the third day, so between today and tomorrow, our team are now going to begin to move or try to explore moving closer to those people that are far away or in difficult places, just to make sure that we can reach them. And then once the households get this net card, when they get the net card, there are sometimes again that the community leaders and the rest of them begin to discuss and say, how do we pull the net cards together, get the net and distribute to our people? All efforts are being put together. Sometimes we talk with councillors, we talk with local government chairmen and say, can you help us in those difficult? There's another place in Ijebu North. I'm trying to get the word. There's one word that is so popular with us now because of the work we are doing.
Oh, okay.
They say it's so difficult to get there. Sometimes you can't get the vehicle that day, or you get only one vehicle and all that. But we've heard about all these places, and all efforts are being put in place to make sure that people there also are covered and they get their nets.
So what's the synergy that we are having with community leaders in particular? I would say traditional rulers, because traditional rulers also play a major role when it comes to issues of this nature, because they know their subjects, they know where they reside, and they have their network already, how they interact, how they communicate with them. So what is the synergy like?
So first of all, they are like the gatekeepers. If you don't get to the gate, you can't even get into the house. So one of the things that we do and take very seriously is the advocacy, community mobilization, which we do. Why we do that is because we say that there have to be that ownership, there have to be that participation and also use. Now when you see the net ambassador, who is the deputy governor, at the state level, we want to give a face. We want to give a face to show state ownership and state leadership for this activity. When we go to the communities and we meet the community leaders, we also will want them also to take a lead and begin to talk to the lower chiefs about the activity happening. And even when there are issues, we also work with them. During the micro planning, where we look at number of settlements and population of settlement, we work with the World Development Committee chairman, also so that they can also ensure that no settlement is missed and we can get the populations of those places. And then the religious leaders, we have gone to see GNI, we have gone to see Khan, and in the meetings we have, we bring them. The market women, at the flag off, you saw that the market women were given opportunity to speak. GNI was given opportunity to speak. Khan was given opportunity to speak. So all of them are pulled into this together because, again, we want people to see that it is something that is acceptable and it is workable. During the distribution of the flag off also, we created opportunity in 2021. The deputy governor demonstrated safety of the net and entered inside that the net is safe. The last one we did some days ago, the Honorable Commissioner also demonstrated safety and entered into the net. And then somebody who works in the Ministry of Health also brought her child and also slept inside the net with the child to demonstrate it's safe. So if we pull all this together and people first of all get the net, the next thing is they should use it well, and then we want community leaders, gatekeepers to continue to encourage them. Do not misuse the net. Use it correctly and protect yourself.
Do you think your ambassador for the state, the deputy governor, will also require one?
The deputy governor. So as the net ambassador, it would be great for her to have it also and to demonstrate the use, which we love to do.
No, I mean that she can take back home and start using it in her house as well too.
Yes, so if her house is not one of the places where we say that we are not giving the nets, then she can. But if it is one of the places we say is deprioritized, then we want to keep to our words and say this is what we say we'll do and all that, and then ensure that it is done. But if the house is there and it's not in that area, we know some houses of some very prominent people, maybe their parents or their compounds or family houses that are in those places that are supposed to get the net and they are getting the net.
Okay, all right, so let's look at the mop-up exercise that will come up 2 days after this 5-day exercise that you're having now. And what will now be your intention after the mop-up? Are you now going to sit back, or do you intend to have a post-distribution campaign to actually go around, even go to the through technology and see how if people are deploying the net for the purpose it is intended?
Okay, so 2 ways to talk to that. The first one is the community mobilization, ownership and participation, which we talked about. So we have 3 phases. We have what we call the pre-distribution, which where we have CSOs, town announcers, go out to talk to people about what is going to happen and to avail themselves to get the net card. Then we have the doing, which is now, where we are telling people that they've started distribution or redemption of the net, take your net card and go and get your net, and that is happening. When we finish, there's the post-campaign that will be happening. So CSOs and town announcers will now begin to tell people that those nets you have collected, it's time to use them so that it will help you and reduce mosquito bites, keep you safe and all that. So that will happen after that. But when we finish also, there's what we call the end process evaluation that we do. It's a quick win. We want to see how many households have the net. We want to see if our strategy for the number of people and the number of net needed in the house also happen. We want to see the spread across the state. So we're going to have people who will go to all the LGAs in the state and work for about 4 days. Go to households and ask them, did you get the net? Did you get the card? How many did you get? Did you sleep inside the net last night? And we'll just do that quick evaluation, which again, by the time we're leaving the state and we're having like a final debriefing meeting with the state on how we have achieved the work we have done, those data will also be presented to the state.
So what is your interface with hospital facility, particularly at a primary level, talking about primary health care center and the like, to collate that data about how effective are these nets been? That is, has it been able to reduce the incidence of malaria among the people or otherwise?
So there are different kind of evaluations that you do if you want to check disease burden, disease prevalence, disease incidence across. Some of them that you want to check, you can check them at different levels. So if we want to talk about net use and net ownership, that will be done best at the households. You want to go to 10 houses or 100 houses as a sample, or 1,000 houses, and ask them, how many of you own net? It gives you a percentage. You want to ask them, how many of these houses do you have pregnant women? It gives you a number. How many of them slept inside the net yesterday? It gives you a number. How many of you have children under 5? You get a number. How many of them? So those are the ones you can get at the household. But to see how effective this is happening to contributing to reduction of malaria, those data you get them from the primary health care. So if last month they treated 50 people for malaria,
okay,
and by the next 2 months the number has reduced to 10, then obviously you know that something is reducing the number of people coming from that. You can attribute it to a lot of things. Then one of the things you can say was the net that was provided. You might not generally totally attribute it to net, but again, it was part of the opportunities or the effort being put together and all that. So that is why I talk about the test positivity rate. So the test positivity rate is how many people did you test for malaria and how many of them came positive. So when you begin to check by LGA, you see that some LGA from 100 people you test, maybe 10 tested positive. So you say it's 10%. In another LGA, you test 100 and maybe 20 comes out positive, so it's 20%. So those things. So we work with the primary health care because those are where the data for test positivity rate come from, because they feed into the national instance to show us what is happening about malaria in those places. Right now, even the distribution happening in the primary health care centers in most of the places, except for a few places where maybe we don't have a primary health care to be in a radius where people can move closely, so we use individual houses. Again, when people have issues, we tell them, go to the primary health care and lay your complaint. Pregnant women, children under 5, is at the primary health care that we say they should go and collect net, especially for places where we say we are not distributing nets. Okay. So a pregnant woman and the children under 5 should go to the primary health care and tell them, if the woman is pregnant and she's registered for antenatal, she's entitled to a free net. If a child comes for child welfare clinic for immunization and all that, and having completed, the child is also entitled to a free net.
Are there consequences for use of this net in an environment where there is air conditioning system, because the net has been treated in a way, so I don't know the chemical composition that was used in treating the net, but are there consequences that if you use it and you have a cooling system around you that is working simultaneously, are there any issue? Will there be any issue?
So most times when people talk about consequences of net, sometimes some of us will look at it and say there's no need to worry or fear, because when people make it and say there's chemical, they try to give it something that scares people. But you know that the mineral we drink, there are some chemicals and some things that are mixed in it, but we drink it and we drink and we enjoy it. So there are some things that are used to rather protect you, not to harm you. So whatever is used to treat the net is not to harm people, it's rather to help protect people. So that's why I say it's insecticidal, it's for the insects, it's not for you. Okay. So human beings can use them. Even if it's the room where there's AC and you're on it, there's nothing going to happen to you. Just sleep inside the net, and if you say the net is hot, like we say, people should sleep light and then have a good sleep.
All right, okay. So what are the other things that you intend doing during this campaign, as the campaign is ongoing now, to make sure that the advocacy level is really the bar is really raised to a level that you can be satisfied that you are doing the right thing?
So currently, even as we are working and distributing the net, we have a number of monitors from the states, and also from the federal and also from the international, who are in the states trying to see what is happening. And as we go around looking around, if there are areas or things that we notice that needs to be addressed immediately, we pull it up. Some things can be addressed instantly at the point. Some things might be brought to maybe the state, maybe even to the Honorable Commissioner, just to make sure that the things work out. Some things might be things you might even look at as policy level, and you want to meet maybe the gatekeepers, community leaders, and the rest of them. But all these are things that we're pulling together to see how we can get the result that we desire. For the things we need to do, and we keep doing, is first of all, continue to educate, encourage people to come out and collect their net. We went to some places, like I say, in Remo today. We have seen people who have collected their nets. Some of them are airing it already. Sometimes people air these nets in the morning when there's no sun. Then later in the afternoon, maybe they forget and the sun comes up and the net is under the sun. But remember, we say it should be under the shade. So again, we keep encouraging people and say, please note the sun, or even keep it where there will be no sun at all, so they can use it. We have also seen people who have the net card, and the date for collecting the net is like 19th or 20th, and some of them are saying, I am busy, I have not gone, and we encourage them. After 23rd, or even if you put the mop up there and you don't go, the net card becomes useless. You can't get it. And then there are people that might be needing this and don't even have. So we keep going around trying to encourage people as much as possible. And then when you get the net again, we encourage that people should use the net every night. So we're expecting now that as we go around the state for places where nets are distributed or people have redeemed their nets, we should see nets being spread outside. And from today, tomorrow, those ones who collect their net on day one, they should start hanging the nets over their sleeping places so that they can sleep.
Are there some good measures to make sure that your 3.1, if it's inadequate, how do you fill up the vacuum?
Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, there was a micro-planning. The micro-planning is when, that point where I said we brought the WDCs. So you go as low into the ward or at the ward level, you bring the WDCs, you bring the ward focal person who is the medical person. Now every health facility in a ward has a catchment settlement, a catchment population, a catchment area. So for example, if you go to a PHC, some ward might even have 2. So when they have 2, each one has or cater for some settlements there, and they have the population of those settlements. So when we do that micro planning, we bring all the ward focal persons and we tell you, give us the names of all the settlements in your ward, the population of all those settlements, and that was how we arrived at the 3.1 million net for the state. So for now, it's like a gap analysis to say this is what we need for Ogun State. Now when we came with that, we now started going to households to now mobilize people and say how many people are in this house. And then based on also the targeted distribution, we are now planning to distribute 2.9 million on this distribution that we're doing. The remaining ones, we are going to now target to see how those ones can be picked during the routine by pregnant women, children under 5. And maybe we might also look at if we can go to maybe boarding schools and all that, talking with the government if we can do that. But eventually the target is let us provide cover for people in Ogun State.
So are we likely to see you again in Ogun State in the next 3 years? That should be 2027?
So it's a continuous thing that the government of Ogun State and the government of Nigeria with partners keep doing. A lot of things keep coming on board. Right now we're talking about the vaccine. Even though it's being tested in 2 states for the country, it's been implemented right now in two states in the country. We don't know. We are hoping that we can get more opportunities for vaccine, but even as we do the vaccine right now, it's still for children under 5. The vaccine is not available for adults yet. Okay. So there's a need to bring the net again in Ogun State. Why not we bring the net? But the desire is that even when that time comes and we do another evaluation, let us see that our indices are on the positive, as malaria is going down in the country, and then we'll keep putting everything together. Remember, if you have fever, don't just go and buy ACT. It might not be malaria. Rather go and do a test. If you go to any lab, or you go to a hospital and you see a doctor, they'll tell you to do a malaria parasite test. If you do that and it's positive, they'll give you ACT. And if they give you ACT for 3 days, please make sure you take it for 3 days, so I can cure the malaria from your body. If we do all that together, by next 3 years or 4 years, the malaria incidence or burden in the state will be low, and maybe the number of net will be this, there might not be this number. We might look at it and say, okay, hey, last time we did 3.1 or 2.9, because of what we are getting, the test positivity rate, the result, maybe we only need 1 million in Ogun State, or maybe just 500,000. That will show us that we're making progress towards the zero we are looking for.
Did your data gathering also cover some set of people, because Ogun State is a border state, border to some states, and it also has an international border to the Republic of Benin. Did you also consider that while you are planning this distribution of ITN?
Yes, we did. And the good thing is, Ogun State is gateway. And so a lot of people come into Ogun State, some are transit, some stay here. And we hear a lot of people also who work in Lagos tend to live in Ogun State. So if you look at the number of distribution points that we're having in Ogun State, or the population, Abeokuta and Ifo, local government that are bordering Lagos, and Obafemi Owode tend to have more of the population and more of the distribution points. So that obviously is what is playing out. For places like Abeokuta, places like Abeokuta, who are also bordering Benin, these are also places where we also ensure that they also get the net, and we're also careful to ensure that we don't go beyond the boundary of Nigeria. So we're doing that with people who already knows the community, and that's why we bring the people working to do the household mobilization to the people from the community that understand the terrain, the communities, and what to do.
All right. Okay. So what about some other things that you might want to share with people out there? It's the 3rd day of distribution, 2 days to go, but there'll also be 2 days for MOPO to actually see where are those areas that you have not really touched, so that you can also quickly fill in the gap. So what are those things that you want to share as well too with people out there, particularly the advocacy on this ITN?
Yeah, so what I want to tell people is to say that honestly we are making progress in malaria control and malaria management in Nigeria. And to say that of the things we have done, which I mentioned again, and I'm mentioning, that people need to be sure that it is malaria they are treating, and treat it with ACT. And then major thing is for us to see how we can even prevent ourselves from getting malaria, so we can be healthy. We don't need to spend money. If you have a household of 5, a father, a mother, and 3 children, household of 5, if everybody is supposed to have an episode of malaria, or maybe 2 episodes of malaria in a year, that will give you 10 episodes in a year. If everybody is spending maybe 5,000 naira for malaria treatment now, 5 times 10 episodes will give you 50,000. That money can provide egg for the children to eat egg every day. When they say children go abroad, they say they come back taller. It's because they're not getting enough egg, they're not getting enough Milo, they're not getting enough milk. The parents are spending the money on healthcare instead of treating the children or to eat well. So if you protect your children and they are well, that's why we say health is wealth. So we want to advise people that prevent, first of all, don't even allow your family to get the malaria. So if the government is giving this net, please accept, come and collect this net and use the net. And we have started, we've done 3 days now. Today is the 3rd day. We still have Friday and we have Saturday. If we don't exhaust or if people don't pick up all their net, we can give opportunity for Sunday and Monday. But we're calling on people, please go and collect your net with your net card or your net token. And when you get the net, air it in a shade, not in the sun, in a shade for 24 hours. And after that, hang it over your sleeping place and sleep. And I want to also say that for people who have old nets, we are pleading and requesting that all the old nets we have, please take them to the distribution point so that we can help to also clean up the environment and find other use for the net instead of loitering them in different places. If we do this, then we are moving towards making Ogun State clean and also ensuring that we reduce the burden and the incidence of malaria in the state.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. John Ocholi, the Program Director, Society for Family Health, who has been with us, talking to us on the issue of ITN, insecticide treated net, that is ongoing in Ogun State now. 3.1 were brought to the state and they intended distributing all these 3.1, all aimed at reducing the incidence of malaria in our society. And you also heard from the state ambassador for ITN there, the Deputy Governor, Engineer Namot Salako-Edele, also urging us, advocating that this is an initiative that we must embrace so as to eliminate malaria completely. Don't forget that if you eliminate malaria, you can imagine the volume of money that you require to spend on drugs. But if that has been eliminated, you have to spend that money. The money will be for the good of the family in some other areas, like Mr. Ocholi said. You can use that to buy eggs, give them balanced diet so that they can be nurtured in the right way. Small thank you, Mr. Ocholi, for finding time to be with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
That's how we call it a day of this week's edition of the program Democratic Part. We'll see you next week, God willing. I remain to the Shideke. Keep flourishing the peace of the Most High. Bye for now.